Welcome to Immature Designer. Today we are going to talk about a very interesting topic which can make your workflow so fast that you cannot even imagine. And this you can bring into use quite often and frequently. And this is also easy. So let's just see how we can make component sets and make use of component sets in Figma. So what I basically want to teach you is that, so this is the component set and this is my screen. Now you can see that there is a primary button that you have already placed on the screen. But maybe when you showed to your head or anyone else, or maybe you thought this later, that no, I don't want a primary button, but I want a secondary button over here. So what you would do is that you would remove this button, then bring your secondary button from your component set, or I mean the design set that you have created, the UI kit, and after bringing that from over there or some other screen, then you will place the secondary button over here. So that's a general process that you do. Now what I want you to teach is that you don't need to do that. You just can do it in 1 second. This is your button, you want to make it secondary, click on this, go over here, select secondary. This button became a secondary button. Now this is what I want you to teach. Also there are some other examples in which you can have you can create as many buttons, as many variants as you want. If you want a button with an arrow over here, so let's just select a button with an arrow, but you thought no, not a right arrow but a left arrow, so in the arrow you can select a left arrow. So how to do these things just without making those movements and those many clicks? You are just clicking 2 clicks and your work is done. So this is this is what I want you to teach in this video. So let's get started. So what I am having over here is that a screen, a simple screen where we can place a button. Okay, and over here I am having 3 different buttons, and these buttons are simple right now. There's this group having a rectangle and a text, and I have made a group out of it. So all these 3 buttons are just simple like that. Now, even if you have not created all your buttons for your project, that doesn't matter. You can always add your buttons in this list. I'll show you how. So first of all, when you have created some of your buttons from your project, for your project, then just select all the buttons and click on create component set. When you click on this one, then you have created a component set. Now what you can do in your component set is that first of all you will click over here, you can add a variant. So this will add the first item. Okay, you can add a variant like this, then you can click on this, then again a fifth variant, and then you can edit this variant and make it some new variant. Okay, first thing is that. And second thing is that if you want a similar button just like this, only you want that, you want to flip this icon, then what you will do is that first of all click on this component and click on auto layout. Okay, auto layout, done. Now what I want to do is that select this primary button. I'll select this button, and whenever you select a button you see a plus icon appears. So just select this button and click on the plus icon, done. So for why I chose auto layout, why I have done auto layout, you can see if I will not do an auto layout, then what will happen is that when I will click on plus icon, then this appears overlaps on this one. That's why I did the auto layout of this frame, auto layout vertically, and then I click on this particular button, and then I click on plus icon, so a similar button, this particular similar button appears, right? Now I needed to make a very slight change, just flip this one. So this is my new variant. So basically I have 4 variants of the button. So these are all my buttons. I will name this component as button, done. Now what I want you to do is that after the component set has been created, you can always add variants, no problem, done. So right now we will use these 4 variants. First step, now done, first step is done, you have created the set. Now come to the second step, select one button. So first button, select the first button. Okay, now go to current variant. In property 1, it is written that let's rename this property 1 as type of type of button. Okay, type of button. Now, the first thing is that the primary button when I have selected, go to current variant and over here, rename this group 2 as primary because this is a primary button. Now, why renaming? We have done the renaming so that in future, whenever I am using this button in any screen, I can know that if I want a primary button from the drop down, I will select primary. And if the name is random, then you don't remember what the name was. That's why it's important to name it correctly. So since this is a secondary button, so just let's rename it as a secondary. Perfect. Now since this is a button which is which is a type of button, but it is also having an extra property. So what we can do over here is that we can go to the button component, and after going selecting this button component, let's add a property, a variant. Okay, now let's name this variant anything, icon, since all these buttons will have icons. So now this button is having two properties. All these buttons are having two properties now, but the property is default. Okay, but for this button, what I want, this is a type of button which I will rename as arrow button. Okay, arrow button. But also there is one thing, the arrow is facing right, and in this is also an arrow button, but this arrow is facing left. So what we will do is that this is an arrow button, but the icon in the arrow button is basically facing right. Okay, and this is again the arrow button. Select arrow option, you don't need to rename, just select arrow option. This is also an arrow button, but the icon in this arrow button is not facing right. This is not default, but it is facing as left. Great. So now you can see that every button is having two properties. You can add as much properties as you want. You can also add the property of color. Okay, so let's just add the property of color. Let's just add the property of color. Great. Now in this, this is the default color. Let's say let's rename this default color. We'll say this is blue. Okay, so this button is having the property of primary button, which is having icon default. Maybe we can say icon, no icon is there. In this also no icon is there. So this is a primary button with no icon and the color blue. Great. This is the secondary button with no icon and the color of blue. Okay. Now this is a arrow button with icon facing right. Okay. And you can say the color is red, right? Let's say red. And how it will begin? Just change the color as red. Nice. And this button is an arrow button with the icon facing left and the color will be green. Green. Let's just change the rectangle color as something in green. This one is too, this is fine. So we have set three properties for each button. So you can set as many properties as you want. How you can set properties? By selecting on this particular set. Okay, from the set you can add the properties from over the plus icon, and you can see all the properties in summary over here. And when you're selecting a button, you can set the properties for the buttons, right? Now done, we have created a nice set over here, and also this is a component, so you can always edit this and all the other buttons will be edited. Now I will what I want, that I wanted in this screen I was said that just add a primary button. Okay, so I will add a primary button over here. Done. Now when you shared this with your designer team, then they said that no, don't add a primary button, add a button which is having an arrow and just add a green button over here. Okay, so what you will do is that now you don't need to go and find the button from somewhere and then add it over here and moving and doing all those stuffs. Just select this primary button and you see type of button. Yeah, they said that the button should be primary, but they wanted an arrow. So let's just select arrow button. When you selected an arrow button, then this kind of button appeared, which is having a red color. But then you said no, the arrow should be left and the button should be green. So this is done. So from here only you have chosen everything and done. So this is how we have learned the use of component set. And this is so easy now. Now the next day they said, no, I want a secondary button over here. Just go and click over here. Done. It's a secondary button now. And in any number of screen, you can just follow up and say that in this screen I want a primary button and over here. So the making the changes has become so easy. And this the cool stuff is that it's not just about the buttons, it's also about other icons, other important UI kit that you have created for your application or your whatever design that you're making. So this makes your work so easier. So just like the video and please subscribe the channel and let me know and on what other topics I can create videos, and so that I would love to explain to my people. Thank you.